Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the practice sessions of strategic business leaderships, right? We have been doing plenty of past papers now, and I hope all of you must have knew that what exactly we need to write, right? Now, since there is a last month to cover past papers, since this is the last month that we are going to cover the past papers, and then we'll be getting advanced information. Along with that, we'll be having practice of specimens that ACCA has recently issued with theoretical practices, right? With theoretical practices. So it's going to be a tough month, but it's going to be a worthy month, right? It's going to be a worthy month as it will give you a lot of benefits for the theories which we haven't covered till now. It will give you benefits of for the questions which we haven't covered now, and the advanced information practice on the exam platform, so that you could solve your questions by your own and then get connected, right? And then get connected. So the key to pass SBL is as simple as that. Pass or practice as much as you can, right? The key to pass SBL is to practice as much as you can. And similarly, for that purpose, we have solved two specimens. For that purpose, we have solved two specimens. Yeah. So the exams now, what we are left with is specimen free, right? Is specimen free, and then marking inside mock, right? Is specimen free and then marking inside mock. And once we have covered these papers, we'll be running on theories and the advanced information that ACCA have issued prior to exam. Advanced information that ACCA have issued prior to exam, right? So if any of the students have covered the previous classes, they should be knowing that they are obliged to read the examiner answers. Although my answers have solved them, they have solved my answers, but they are obliged to solve examiner answers or read examiner answers and get extra point from them, right? And get extra points from them. So let's just start with another sector that we are going to do. Let's just start with another sector that we are going to do, right? And that is going to be a hospitality sector. That's really amazing, I guess, because this question will be similar to the question attempted in Zilber, because Zilber was also from hospitality sector. So this question is from hospitality sector, right? This question is from hospitality sector. I don't know why my pen is making such kind of a problem. Just a minute. Yeah, so it is from hospitality sector, right? And the sector we have already attempted. If you can just see these sessions, I have been trying to solve as many as sectors with you, right? The reason here is that the many sectors you have attempted, it will give you a brief knowledge of all of the sectors. And then if any of the sector that you know is being tested, you could easily access or pass this exam, right? You could easily access or pass this exam. So Nehby, I'll rate this question as an easy one, because you have attempted DCS, you have attempted Railco, so there are bound to be some difficult questions. But Nehby seems to be an easy one, but a lengthy one. It's the question which you can be challenged on its length, right? It's a question on which you can be challenged on its length, right? Because it's really a lengthy one. So let's read this. You must be knowing that first page, right? First page gives you an idea of industry, right? Gives you an idea of industry. So that's really great here. It will give you an idea of industry now. See, so Nehby Company is a family business which owns and operates 8 restaurants in Caputo, right? So they have 8 restaurants in Caputo, the capital city of the country of Sealand, and Caputo is located in the south of the country, right? So Caputo is located in the south of the country. Nehby has been in business for last 35 years, right? Nehby has been in business for last 35 years, so they have the experiences. During the time, the company has created some of the Caputo's most iconic and best loved restaurants. So they are quite famous, right? The guys are the famous, the Nehbys are the famous there. The theme of their success is renovating and restoring historic buildings, transforming each one into a beautiful and original restaurant. The original founder, Graham Nehby, is also the chief executive officer of the business. And Graham has a strong personality, right? And his views have tended to dominate the direction of the business to date. So he's kind of a dominating person. Right? So Graham's 3 sons have all joined the family business. Graham's 3 sons have all joined the family business, and together with Graham from the board of Nehby. So figure 1 is, that's Graham here. He has the shareholding of 40%. Then finance and IT, John Nehby, shareholding of 20%. Restaurant and operations, Peter Nehby, shareholding of 20%. HR and marketing, Andrew Nehby, shareholding of 20%. And then restaurant managers reports to Peter Nehby. And then restaurant managers reports to Peter Nehby, right? Yeah. So now, the Nehby board is considering the future strategic direction and investment plans for the business. So that means they wanted to grow. And they are considering the options. The sons have suggested that Nehby should pursue a strategy of product diversification and enter into a hotel industry. Now just see here that they have been working in the restaurant industry. And now they want to move in the hotel industry. So I'll say the sector seems to be the same, as both relates to hospitality sector. The sector here relates same, that both pertains to be the hospitality sector. But the thing is that the industry here seems to be different. Right? So now, here we go. They have identified a new business opportunity in the north of Sealand to renovate and restore historic building, formerly a bank, and turn it into a hotel, which will be operated by Nehby. So there's a chance in the north, right? One thing you should highlight, that they have been operating in the south. They are just been operating in the south, and they just got an opportunity to operate it in the north. Now, however, Graham believes that the business should continue with its current business model of converting historic and iconic buildings in the capital city into restaurants, and wants Nehby to open another new restaurant in Caputo. So CEO wants to continue the restaurant's growth, whereas the sons, they want to expedite their growth by going in a hotel sector. Now, Graham and his 3 sons want to seek advice and guidance about the opportunities available to them. They have commissioned you as an independent self-employed management consultant to provide them with information and analysis to support their future expansions, plans, and advise them about their choice of strategic direction, So you have collected and analyzed the following information, exhibits 1 to 6, to help with your task. Exhibit 1 to 6 to help with your task. So exhibit 1, article on the success of Nehby's restaurants published on Caputo Post newspaper, a transcript of views of each member, a Nehby Boat Company performance to date, and the future strategic direction of the business, information on 2 investment plans. They have 2 plans, article on the hospitality industry in Sealand, Nehby Company financial and management accounting information extracts for the year ended March 2000, a transcript of interview shown on Talking Stock, a Sealand television program which looks at business topics. So they gave you 6 exhibits. Now, by reading the first page, we are aware that there are 3 directors and 1 CEO. The CEO is the father, and the directors are the children's. One reports to one has a finance and IT thing, one has operations, and the other one has HR and marketing. Frame wants to grow organically and wants to open another restaurant in capital city, which is based in South, whereas the children wants to move into the another sector and wants to grow in the north of the country of Sealand and open the restaurant, open the hotel things, right? They have been serving the restaurant sector and they want to go in a hotel sector, right? So here come the questions. The first, I'll allocate this as an yellow color, right? I hope you got my coloring matches here, right? Nehby Company is now considering whether to continue with current business model of renovating an historic building and transforming it into a restaurant of Caputo, or diversify the portfolio and enter in the hotel industry by converting the former bank situated in the north of Sealand into a hotel. The board of Nehby has requested an independent report on the 2 mutually exclusive investment options they are considering. So please prepare a report which assesses and appraises 2 options of strategic perspectives. The report should be allow the board of Nehby to compare and contrast the 2 options, right? So they want you to compare the 2 options. What 2 options it can be? I guess it can be hotel and restaurant. And we have 20 marks for this and 4 marks for professional skills of evaluation. And in evaluation, you guys knew that you have to work pros and cons, that you have to make pros and cons, right? So this is the first question. I'll say this is an easy, and since see you have been working on strategic perspectives, you need to work on strategic perspectives. So that means that you will be applying and you can apply a model SFA framework. You can apply a model here, SFA framework. We attempted the same model in Zilber. I'll be covering this model with you prior to solving this question, so you guys don't need to worry. I'll be covering this question with you prior to solving this question, so you guys don't need to worry, right? Now see, Graham has been giving considerations to your assessment of 2 available options, and he wants to understand more about how the new investment will affect the risk facing by Nehby Company and the factors to consider when deciding of the financing decisions. So they want you to help the factors that they should be considering while deciding the financing decisions, right? So it seems a good thing here, right? So prepare briefing notes for the board of Nehby, an explanation of the appropriateness to Nehby company of diversifying risk by going into an hotel business. So you need to justify that how the risk is going to be diversified, right? How the risk is going to be diversified. So you need to justify it here that how the risk is going to be diversified. And professional skills marks are available for skepticism, right? 2 marks. And then consideration of the key factors which will influence financing structure of the board of nearby company and demonstrating commercial acumen. So what sort of finances, they could look for? What sort of finances they could look for, right? You can be thinking of this also, that what sort of finances that nearby could look for while going in an hotel sector or any sector. If they want expansion, they need financing. And what sort of financing they can took, right? What sort of financing they can take. Now, the third question, following a board meeting which discussed your report on the two options, the board is in complete agreement that the hotel renovation and running a hotel in the strategic direction they have chosen to pursue. So they have tried to open the hotel. They wants to open the hotel now. John recognizes that renovating from a bank building and transforming into a hotel will be a major project, and adequate measures will need to be put in place to track how well the project is doing and ensuring overall objectives are achieved. So you want to prepare a report with recommendations and justifications of the measures which will be important for tracking all major project variables to ensure satisfactory progress towards achievement of project goals and successful opening. And here's the commercial acumen. So this is one of the interesting requirement, I'll say. This is one of the interesting requirement, I must say, that recommendations with justifications of the measures which will be important for tracking all major project variables are working satisfactorily, and they are working to achieve their goals, and they are working for the successful opening of their hotel. Now, an explanation of the implications of board of Nehby, how the business is managed, and the governance changes needed by the venture capitalists for equity funding. So that means they're going for the equity fundings. That means they might go for the equity fundings, right? See, John also recognizes that as a result of choosing the hotel project and the size of investment required, Nehby will need to secure equity funding from a venture capitalist. So they need an equity funding from a venture capitalist. And to secure the investment, the expectations of the venture capitalist will need to be taken into the consideration. So now they are getting another owner being here. And the requirement is that an explanation of the implications, both the board of Nehby and for the business is managed, governance changes needed that venture capitalists provide to equity funding, right? An analysis of the current culture of Nehby and an assessment of how the culture may need to change to align with strategic aims. So they need to analyze the culture and how this culture will be changed to align with the strategic aims of the venture capitalist. Right? For culture, there's a very interesting model which I'll be teaching you, that is cultural web. For culture, there is a very interesting model that I'll be teaching you, that is cultural web, right? So cultural web is basically a model to determine culture of an entity. So we'll be comparing the current cultural web of Nehby with suggested changes of the cultural web of Nehby after venture capitalist, Now, the last requirement, the popular television program Talking Stock has just broadcast an episode which includes an interview with the venture capitalist. Now, they have the interview with the VC. You have advised the board of Nehby to watch the episode with a view to understanding the need of improvements and the information currently presented in the management accounts and the additional information which will be needed to provide in the future. We are going to deliver a presentation to the board regarding the current management accounting information. So you need to prepare the presentation with an appropriate number of slides. Let's take this color. Now slides are on you with accompanying notes for support your findings, identification of the weaknesses of current management accounting information, right? For and supporting decision in making the restaurant business, recommendation for improvement to the management accounting data, which identifies KPIs, which should be included in monthly management accounts, clarifying, and there are skills of communication. See, I have just read the requirements now, and I got an idea of the questions that I've got, right? I've got to evaluate the strategy, the two possible strategies, right? I've got this one as a question. I've got that appropriateness of diversifying a risk, how in going in hotel business will diversify my risk, right? Then consideration of the key factors of the financing structure of the board, that how the board will manage finance. Then tracking all the key measures to make sure the successful opening, venture capital things, right? Cultural changes, venture capital things, and how the business will be managed by the venture capital fundings. And then some management accounting data needs to be analyzed, right? So I've got multiple questions now, and I know what to write in start. And I've got an idea. This is the beauty of SBL, right? You'll get an idea of the question by just reading the first page and the requirements, right? The best thing here is that if you can just allocate the requirements. So I'll say this requirement can be tested from exhibit 1, exhibit 2, right? This requirement can be tested from 1. Then diversifying risk by going into the hotel business. So an explanation of appropriateness of Nehby company of diversifying risk of going into the hotel business. So that seems a general one, right? That seems a general one. Financing structure. That might be exhibit 3 can be here. That's the detail of the 2 investment plans. Here, exhibit 3 could be used, right? Because it will determine you that how to go for it, right? Then talking stock. Yeah, talking stock. That was here. So I'll say this requirement can be answered from exhibit 6, right? Exhibit 6. Then financial and management accounting information. So this could be exhibit 5 also. This could be exhibit 5 also. So you just need to allocate the exhibits, right? You just need to allocate the exhibits to solve the questions, right? Here some questions can be solved by just one exhibit, whereas some questions would require each and every exhibit, right? The governance changes and cultural changes, that seems to be all exhibits. I could not identify any specific exhibits for this. We could get data from any exhibit here, right? Although by reading exhibits, we would get a better idea. So let's just read this. The strategy is same. We'll be reading this complete question now. Then we'll be planning that how to attempt. And while showing my answer to you, I'll be teaching you the topics that have been tested here, which are not yet teached to you. And then we'll be reading the answer. And similar to do, we have one more question, and then we'll move on to the theories, right? I hope you guys are enjoying your SBL journey. That seems to be an amazing one, right? So another prestigious award for Nearby company. I would recommend each and every student while reading the first time, just go through it, just read it thoroughly, mark some important points so that you could easily get right, uh, go through the question and you know what things are there and where these things are. So you must be knowing that, right? So elite restaurant business continues to move forward. The most recent award, one in a long line of acknowledgements from the industry, is a special award for the significant contribution Nehby has made in Caputo's dining scene for 35 years. It is driving force behind some of the Caputo's best loved restaurants, and the award is in recognition of their visionary approach and attention of detail, which has never faltered in the 35 years. So they have got the award in the restaurant sector, right? They have got the award in the restaurant sector. Now, the company operates in 8 restaurants in Caputo. It's the general thing. So I'll highlight with the general color. Its philosophy for success has been to masterfully renovate historic buildings, transforming each one into the original restaurant. The 8 restaurants are institutions where you are likely to see high-profile film stars and famous sports personalities, as well as government ministers. So there have I'll say they have some say that the celebrities visits them, right? They have some say. The clientele are demanding and refined and are the rich and influential of Sealand society. Many of those who frequent the restaurants have been loyal to nearby companies since the opening. So they have a great society. They have a great customer base. I'll say they have the great customer base, right? The restaurants provide wonderful menus, serving only best quality cooked to perfection. The nearby company's restaurant have always provided a perfect balance of service, ambience, and quality of food without overemphasis on one or the other. So they have some good controls, right? They have some good controls there. This has been achieved by careful attention to detail and an absolute hands-on approach, and a board member often being present in the restaurants. They also seem to have an intuitive sense of what restaurant goers want from the experience and the ability to attract and command intense loyalty from senior staff in an industry known for high staff turnover. So their staff is loyalty, right? Their staff is loyal. Although the industry seems, the waiter seems to be changing jobs, but their staff is loyal one. They have a talent for bringing together strong teams who run exceptionally busy outlets with complete regularity and precision. Uh, there are relatively few people who can open restaurant in Caputo as much instant glamour as Nehby. The very best restaurants are like film sets in which diners play both cast and audience, and no restaurant knows this better than the Nehby executives. Over the years, they have collected plenty of awards featuring lists such as top 50 restaurants in Caputo. Their many awards are deserved acknowledgement for their role of the forefront Caputo's rise to becoming one of the culinary capitals of the world. The industry rumors are in Nehby is looking to expand its portfolio by going for an hotel. So that means the industry has been rumorized, right? So that means the industry has been rumorized. This is the company's opportunity to perform on a bigger stage than ever before. The board members just need to prepare for their audience at the hotel in the same way as they prepared in the restaurants. Long may their success continue. So till now, Nehby seems to be a very extra diligent entity and seems to be an amazing entity, right? So Nehby seems to be an amazing entity till now, right? Let's just have listened the interviews which were held between you and each member of Nehby. So that means you should be having the interviews. You should be reading them. You can get some points right. You asked each member of the board to express their thoughts on company's performance to date and future strategic direction of the business. And below is the transcript of their views. Raim Nehby. I'm very clear about our future strategic direction. We should continue to build our strengths and core competences by expanding our restaurant portfolio in Caputo. So Graham is quite cut and clear. Graham is quite cut and clear that we should be going for restaurant. One of our clear aim is to maintain growth in our core markets by retaining the values associated with current restaurant. If we continue to deliver excellent services and our unique and innovative fine dining atmosphere, we'll continue to differentiate ourselves effectively from the competition and deliver more of the success we have achieved to date. And we'll deliver more of a success we have achieved to date, right? So we'll deliver more of a success we have achieved to date. We have been successfully attracting and commanding intense loyalty from restaurant staff. So their staff is loyal, and we knew that. We know that the restaurant industry is known for long working hours, or often kitchen staff will work longer hours than they are actually paid for. Despite this, our staff turnover is low, and industry is known for high staff turnover. So they have been the good employers. In terms of staff, the Nehby seems to be the good employers. In terms of staff, the Nehby seems to be the good employers, right? I know that to expand the business, we'll need a cash injection, and if we undertake the hotel project, it's likely to come from a venture capitalist. So they are thinking that the funds might come from the venture capitalist, and I fear that will mean substantial changes in the input of the board we'll have in future strategic direction. I understand that external investors can bring benefits, and I know there are weaknesses that needs to address, not least our reactive planning approach, which has meant that occasions we have missed potential opportunities which we would have exploited. So now the CEO is saying once the venture capitalist would come, he'll hinder our processes, he'll change our processes, he'll ask us to go for every bloody possible opportunity. We have missed many opportunities, but venture capitalists would say to go for these opportunities, to go for these opportunities. Our reactive approach means which we can change the strategy as we see fit. This approach is unlikely to sustainable once the business has external ownership. So now there's a change in culture, right? There's a change in culture that once there's an external ownership, they could not follow their reactive strategy. So we got one point. We got one point here, right? We can correctly think longer term view and have freedom to act in our own interest, which may involve taking decisions that are not wholly intended to maximize profit, right? So these types of decisions would be vanished once venture capitalist has arrived. These type of decisions would be vanished once venture capitalist has arrived. I can see that my expensive company car will not be seen as essential potential. Yeah, if they have the expensive company car, the venture capitalists would ask them to avoid these expenses, right? Because you are here for my best thing, not your best thing. I believe the cars we drive are part of the status and reward. Job well done. So CEO's views are in front of you, and we got some points now. We got some points now. Check out this. Our current investment criteria are for projects to deliver a positive NPV of a cost of capital, chosen to achieve payback within 5 years. So they want payback within 5 years. That could help you in deciding where to go. This could help you in deciding where to go. Right? Now, Evaluation and authorization are only the first steps of the investment process. It is important to report regularly on the progress to enable effective monitoring and control of the investment project. The degree of commitment, enthusiasm, and drive of the board is implementing a project is a major factor in determining our success to date and the success or failure of the option we choose for our next investment. I'm very excited about the extraordinary property that we have identified in the regeneration belt in the north of Sealand. The building was formerly a bank and has a beautiful facade, a riverside location, and a rooftop terrace that has magnificent views over the largest city in the north of the country. And the feel of the property is one that could be developed into a grand hotel once it's undergone sympathetic renovation, right? I believe we should try and make first mover advantage available. So they have the first mover advantage there. They have the first mover advantage there. We should also be taking advantage of the grants that are available for the businesses choosing to invest in the north of Sealand. The growth has ring-fenced more than 3 billion of development activity. So the government has ring-fenced more than 3 billion development activity, which indicates an ambitious regeneration policy, which we would be foolish not be part of. So that means government has some plans for that area also. So if we are going there, we might be getting government benefits. And if we are not going there, we might be killing ourselves. Venture capitalists will be committed to our success in a way that bank is not. A bank will get the same amount of interest on our loan regardless how well we are doing. The current terms with our bank stipulate that our gearing does not reach 45%. So that means your gearing could not go above 45%. So if you take a loan and you're gone, and your gearing gone 45% above, then the covenants will be stretched out. A venture capitalist return, on the other hand, grows in proportion to how successful we became in signing away some measures of the control in form of shares. We also gain a powerful ally to help realize our plans. We do not have the appetite or capacity as a family to do this alone. Peter Nehby. So they could not do alone, right? My initial concern was not being able to finance the hotel without external investment and the potential dilution of my shareholding. However, after careful consideration, benefits and drawbacks, I'm now excited. So Peter also wants this. Peter also wants this, although he knows that his shareholding's gonna compromise. Although he knows that its shareholding is going to compromise, but again, he's excited. My main concern now is how the hotel sector is characterized by high operational gearing and would be one of aspect of the business I would want to monitor carefully, especially when economic conditions take a downturn. The strength of the hospitality industry is a measure of the wealth in people's pockets, so cost will need to be carefully monitored. Our success is based on a strong set of values, which we expect each member of staff to promote. Our carefully crafted mission statement reflects those values to deliver hospitality from heart to create great places to eat, which combine an intriguing atmosphere with excellent and interesting food where customer satisfaction is paramount and people, staffs, and customers feel they belong. I know that my experience with the restaurant can be transferred to hotel venture, and the mission statement can evolve to take account the new edition of the portfolio. I'm looking forward to creating a restaurant space in the hotel in real sense of occasion. So we got some points now. He's a bit excited. Now let's read Andrew. The market conditions are struggling. That maybe it is now time to diversify our portfolio. So market is struggling, right? He wants to diversify. It will still be important that we continue with the values we have delivered our success to date. And for us to stand out from the crowd, we'll be transferring our values in the hotel sector. The hotel's project plan is 67 bedrooms, including 16 suites. Food will be the major part of the hotel, with an 80-seat main restaurant in the center of the hotel and a bar and the lounge that will serve food throughout the day. We'll take room service very seriously with a 24-hour operation with the same attention for the detail as provided. We intend to take quality of service, twice experience in the restaurant into the bedrooms and suite. And we know that restaurants play bigger role in ever the hotels, so you'll be start playing with core strengths. So that means they'll open a restaurant and which is their core strength in an hotel, right? So they'll open a restaurant too here. We have achieved significant recognition from our restaurants, and I see no reason why that we should not extend the hotel sector. I've already made inquiries about becoming a member of the worldwide luxury hotel elite group. So they could be the member of this group, right? So they could be the member of this group, right? Only the world's most distinguished properties are admitted into its membership. This would be great marketing tool if during the development we keep in mind the criteria needed to meet their standards. I am reliably informed that we could be awarded the status within the 6 months. So he thinks that we could get the status in 6 months, right? He thinks that he could get the status in 6 months. Nice. Let's read Exhibit 3. John Nehby has put together information of mutually exclusive investment options, expansion of our existing restaurant business, opening a new restaurant in Caputo, total restaurant portfolio to 9. So if they went for this, their total restaurant is 9. Opening a hotel in the north of Sealand, which would qualify for government grant towards renovation cost. This will add a new product to our portfolio. So they're going to be getting the grant. If they went for the hotel, they're going to be getting the grant because government has a 3 billion development project for that site, right? Initial investment is $5 million. The basis for determining the initial investment outlays actual cost incurred in renovation of our latest restaurant 15 months ago. So investment is $5 million. Here the investment is $21 million. The basis for determining the initial investment outlay is information sourced from industry experts who have recent involvement in hotel renovation. A building has been identified and has been held on reserve, but if this falls through, then it may be hard to find another suitable property due to scarcity of the buildings in Caputo. So building has been identified, but we can lose this. Former bank identified and has been held in reserves, but if this falls through, there are other available properties which we would meet. So they could get another building for the hotel thing, but they could not get another building easily for the restaurant thing. 3 months once final agreement, 9 months once final agreement is the duration. The net cash flows are based on the figures. The net cash flows does not include any of the government grants. The cash flows are based on 65% occupancy with 85% in the year 5 and 6. So we could ask them that how they have determined the occupancy. We could challenge them, right? The room rate rented 10% total room considered high risk. So discount factor is 8% for restaurant and 10% for hotel. So this is the NPV of restaurant and this is the NPV of hotel, right? So this seems a good investment appraisal they have given you. We'll be going through this investment appraisal while attempting. Don't worry. We'll be going through this investment appraisal while attempting. So you don't need to worry, right? Now, hospitality importance as industry sector. The hospitality industry makes a major contribution to the Sealand economy and employs a large proportion of the population. In some parts of Sealand, the industry is the main source of income and employment. The industry is driven by and dependent on a strong economy. The strength of the hospitality industry is measure of the wealth of people's pocket. So they have given you an industry background, right? So I want a cheap room. Not everyone wants same type of service or food. The industry has to identify customers, different needs, and offer suitable services. I want a cheap room, just somewhere to put my head down. I want a luxury more than I would have in my own home. A TV with 20 channels and home movies, a mini bar and room service of the highest quality. And if I wasn't actually eating in the restaurant itself, spotlight on the future. So industry commentators expect another excellent year for the hospitality industry, anticipating rising hotel occupancy rates as well as increasing number of restaurant meals served in all types of restaurants. In the last 12 months, revenue per available room, a performance metric. So they use the KPIs, right? They use the KPIs. So that means there have been some KPIs. We got revenue per. The rate represents total related revenues divided by total available rooms. This is often used a measure of performance yields for hotels. Over the same period, average daily rate achieved has remained consistent year on year. ADR is average daily rate per rented room or the mean price charged for all hotel rooms sold in a given period. Restaurants play a bigger role than ever in hotels, right? And restaurant is likely to be sustained by hotel guests alone. The demand for restaurant services has in the past been largely influenced by economic growth and the amount of available disposable income. So confidence should also be increased both by a fall of in unemployment. 7.1% at the end of the last year, by 0.7% previous year, and the rate of GDP growth, which was higher than last year. Now, Northern Regeneration Program. Perhaps one of the most astonishing statistics regarding revenue per is that the rate is likely to increase faster in the North Sea lands. So the rate for the hotels is going to be faster in the North Sea land. Why? Is underway to support bid for the North to host a major sporting event in 2 years' time. So they are going to host kind of a sporting event here. They are going to host kind of a sporting event here, right? So this can only be a positive news as other countries who have hosted similar events have experienced millions of visitors each year for many years. The Sealand government has unveiled wide-ranging plans to dramatically transform and renegotiate the north of the country, which has been given Sealand assisted area status, allowing company to facilitate economic growth. The attraction of the capital as the destination for tourism remains high, but the outlook for the north also offers attractive opportunities. Overseas visitors to Sealand will rise by 6 lakh this year, the highest in the last 5 years. The good news is that the world has an aging population with more disposable income and desire to travel. Increased competition in the airline market has resulted in lower fares. Everything seems to be leading to increased travel. So the travel is going to be increased. Therefore, the hotels gonna get some benefit, right? The feel-good factor in the capital is now extending to other major cities, particularly in the north of the country. We could have 3 times as many restaurants in the capital city, but there are not enough great sites available and there's fierce competition. So it makes sense business to consider investment in north, right? Friends said to continue. Eco-friendly, responsible business practice are an important consideration for many consumers. Hotels and restaurants need to consider the wider contribution to society. Hotel guests are more conscious of environmental problems and have started to consider the environment and their accommodation choice. This is also becoming valid luxury hotels. The development of eco-label is thus helping customer in their choice without cutting back on clients' comfort. Many efforts can be made by hotel management through application of best available practices. So hotels needs to be eco-friendly. Hotels needs to consider healthy options. Healthy eating has become a mainstream dining in recent years with the arrival stealth health trend where chefs replace salt, fat and sugar with healthy, bold flavors without promoting it to customers because customers now expect healthy options, right? Chef need to comply by offering options with sacrificing flavor. Technology. The industry is increasingly engaging with digitally active consumers who expect to be able to interact with brands on personalized multi-channel basis, and who are harnessing social media and mobile technology at even a faster rate. Technology continues to have multi-phased and substantial impact in the industry with rising mobile phone, social networks, share experiences, and improve business processes and intelligence better deliver the customer promise. Talent is available in the country due to economic stability. We are currently enjoying in Sealand. We are seeing much the homegrown talent staying rather than exodus. We have seen in the previous years employment outside the country. So their talent is retaining, right? Their talent is retaining. There are still countries which try to train and recruit the best in the industry, and Sealand needs to its training programs as not to fall behind the rest of the world. The hospitality sector is diverse and rapidly changing, and the challenges faced by hospitality businesses are wide-ranging. These include the need to attract the best talents, a mission to harness technology, and constant drive to improve customer satisfaction. They have given you some financial statements extracts. So they got some good profit, right? Good revenue for year ended. And they have got balance sheet for which the cash is this. They have given you the bank OD. They have given you the long-term loans. So they have given you each and everything. And now the management accounts are here. We'll do an analysis, right? The management accountings are here. So we need to do analysis here. So operating profit against the budget seems to be good now. Now cumulative for the year, right? It was period 12, and now this is for the year, right? And now this is for the year. So this matches here, right? Matches with this. So it's full year performance. So you need to identify the variances in the performance, right? Then we have exhibit 6. We'll be doing this calculations while attempting. Now exhibit 6, transcript of interview. Venture capitalists have long played a vital role in helping entrepreneurs, right? They provide far more just capital. They also provide guidance, knowledge, experiences, transform a company. Connect Risk Capital, venture capitalist, was founded in 2001, investing in both startups and established hospitality businesses headquartered in Sealand. We managed to get some time with one of the founders, Sam Redson, and we are going to ask him a series of questions, right? So how long does venture capitalist invest in a business? So they've given you a Q&A session. They have given you a Q&A session. We usually look to retain our investment between 3 to 7 years. The term of the investment is often linked to the growth profile. Investment in more mature businesses where the business performance can be improved more quickly are often sold sooner in the early stages. Or technology companies where it takes time to develop the business model. We expect robust risk management and control because investment decision will need to be aligned with our appetite, and we expect fast resolution of any risk issues that can be maximized. So can you explain to us what is involved in the investment process? The key stage investment process is the evaluation of the business plan. It is important that a realistic approved forecast has been prepared. As an example, with new hotel, we would expect forecast occupancy rates to be 50%, while they have kept 85%, and they expect the occupancy rate to be 50%, right? In considering the business plan, the venture capitalist will consider several principal aspects. The product or service commercially viable? Is the business considering the external drivers of the future? Does the company have potential for sustained growth? Is the skill set or place can it be recruited? Does the possible reward justify the risk? Venture capitalists needed to be comfortable with their involvement. Why does VC expect the company management? What does they expect, right? So we expect total commitment of the strategic direction. This would include not leaking cash unnecessarily. So no cars, guys, no cars. Like expensive company cars. Oh my God, they have given example. Flamboyant offices, cost effective, when more cost effective options will still serve the same purpose. Excessive salary is not linked to performance would be unacceptable, as we would expect rewards to be linked to the achievement of business growth. We'd identify outset. We encourage formalized approach in planning with detailed control feedback. We also like to know how each part of business is performing and consider each part of business as profit center. Total figures for the business does not allow monitor underperforming parts of the portfolio and identify where greater controls might be needed. Good management accounts are essential. The business needs to implement a structure that supports profit center reporting and encourages a focus on both business and customer needs. We expect that fast decisions might have to be made for the operational level to support customer satisfaction, business continuity. So some decentralized autonomous decisions making is encouraged. This has to be supported by centralized guidelines and ourselves to protect our investment. Why is the role of NED important? It is normal for venture capitalists to place an NED on the board, right? They put NED to represent their interest. They can either be one of the own fund managers or individuals who has sectoral market or management expertise, which will help delivery of the corporate plan. We also like to have an input into the key management roles, which might be needed for new venture. Even with successful businesses, it is sometimes right to bring in new blood. So they want new blood, right? They don't want the old CEOs. Is it important to be responsible investor? Many of our clients strongly support environmentally and social initiative across their portfolio of companies. Target companies are assessed against a broad range of criteria: environmental, social, governance, and sustainability. Companies would also be monitored on compliance with the policies and standards set out at the time of investment. Totally quarterly reports of performance would be required. So they want, I'll say, a standard procedures that to be followed. And this type of procedures are not usually followed in a private sector. So what else would you expect to see in the quarterly report? This would depend. CSFs, they want CSFs for the business we are considering investment, and the sector in which it operates. As an example, a hotel has much available data to collect, and businesses needs to be clever about collecting it. The business must understand what they are looking for, make sure it is actually measurable. Certain core KPIs have been established over the years. However, in recent times, alongside the rise in big data and DA, there has been a shift towards specific measures, focusing on not just revenue and profit per room, but return per square meter. Yeah. So in recent times, alongside in rise in DA, there have been shift in specific measures, focusing on not just revenue and profit per room, but return per square meter. What is the typical return expected? The return expected is 20%. So this is, I'll say, a first question in which data is not particularly linked in one exhibits, right? Now think of the requirements. Here we need to make a report which assesses the two options. The three exhibits are here. 1, 2, and then the 3. The 2 investment plans. You need to use this, right? You need to use these. So there are many things here that are totally general. They just want you to put an idea from the question and just plot this. Let me give you an example. The cultural questions. The cultural questions are dependent on the cultures of the directors, right? The question that determines the culture. The culture can be determined from the first exhibit and as well as from the 5th exhibit, from the comments that the directors have given, right? Although we need to compare it with the culture that the venture capitalists want. So that is answered in exhibit 6. So this is the reason of attempting this question is that it gives you an idea that sometimes your answer could be from multiple exhibits, right? Your answer could be from multiple exhibits. So let's have a break today. If you want to attempt this question, you guys can attempt it by your own. Else we'll, in the next class, I'll give you my answer. We'll have a discussion on it. I'll teach you the theories and the models tested in this question. And then we can move on to our next question. Take care. This is all from my side. See you all in the next class. Hi, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. This is your facilitator for Strategic Business Leadership exam. And we are running around to our plan, which is to cover specimen 3 answer, right? And once my answer is covered, then you guys are requested to at least read the examiner answer, think of the extra points which you guys can make, right? In last class, we read this company, this scenario, and we got that this is from hospitality sector, right? And in the first page, as you guys know, that there's an intro which you guys will be given, and in fact is a great thing, right? Through which you can get a idea of the industry, idea of the scenario which is going to come. Similarly, we read the requirements, right? We planned it. Sometimes we got this right, and we just then read the exhibits. We got some good points now, and then we have to attempt the requirements, right? And then we have to attempt the requirements. If I can just make you a summary of the requirements, that would be great, right? If I could just make summary of requirements, it would be great, I guess. So here we are going to summarize the requirement now. Yeah. So the first requirement is 2 options, right, for strategic perspective. I hope you guys remember this, that 2 options were there, right, to grow. And number 1 was to go in hotel sector, and the other one is to continue the restaurant sector, right? And the other one is to continue restaurant sector, right? So one is to go in hotel sector, another one is to go in restaurant sector. So this was the first requirement, right? And if you remember, once we have done plan, we allocated the exhibits here. I've told you to allocate the exhibits, right? So that was here. Then prepare a report which assesses and appraises 2 options, right? Strategic perspective, 20 marks for this, and evaluation, pros and cons. Now, in this particular requirement, what you are going to do, in this particular requirement, you are going to write pros and cons for evaluation skill. You must be remembering then, that in the professional skill classes, I've taught you that evaluation is totally demonstrated. Evaluation is totally demonstrated on pros and cons, right? On pros and cons, right? So this is how we are going to attempt it, right? Then we'll move on to the other requirements. But since, as you guys all knew, that there are no mandatory models to be applied, right? If an examiner has written nothing, then you don't need a model here, right? Then you don't need the model here. But for your suitability, I'll say for your scheme of answer, it would be great if you can use a model. It would be really great if you guys are using a model, right? So here, for any strategic option, you guys must know that for any strategic option or a strategic exploration, there is a model which can be used, which is SFA framework, right? Which is SFA framework, which can be used, right? So what we are going to do now, since there's I've been teaching you the topics, then we are going on to the drafting. So I'll teach you SFA and how to use SFA, and then we'll attempt this answer. And then we will move on to the other requirements as well, right? And then we'll move on to the other requirements as well. The thing to remember here is there is no mandatory model required, right? There is no mandatory model required. It's on you if you want to use the model. It's on you that if you want to use the model, that's totally on to you. And I would suggest that for the better scheme, for the better tone, I would recommend each and everyone that if any applicable model can be applied, you guys should do that. You guys should do that, right? So let's go to the theoretical books where SFA framework. In my theory notes, let's go to the theory notes. Where is SFA framework, right? Here, see, SFA framework is that this model, I would just turn this to green, that we have done this. The theories which we have done, I'm turning down to green, right? So SFA framework. See, this model is used when we plan to acquire the company, either in the same country or another country, or, right, or any strategic option, can be dealt in this model. Any strategic option can be dealt in this model, right? So if there is any strategic exploration of a strategic option, you could use SFA. Now another student asked, that's whether it's mandatory to use SFA or not. It's not mandatory. It's up to the discretion of the student. It's up to the discretion of the students that whether you want to use that or not, right? Whether you want to use that or not. So suitability, right? So here we go. SFA stands for suitability, feasibility, acceptability. SFA stands for suitability, feasibility, acceptability, right? So now, suitability. In suitability, what you'll do, in suitability, you'll discuss the information, about the home country if it's given. In suitability, you will discuss the information about the target country, like if you're going for any other country's acquisition. So information about target country, right? So information about home country, or it would be better that if you can discuss the home sector in which you already exist, right? In a sector in which you already exist, right? In which you already exist. And then you can discuss about the target sector. And then you can discuss about the target country or the target sector. In fact, I have two questions aligned, in which one question is acquisition in a different sector, which is Nehby. And there's also another question which we'll be doing in the next class, that's machine shop, in which you are acquiring companies from another country, right? So information about target country, that's, or the sector in which you are going to make investment, right? In which sector you're going to make investment. Then information about target company, in target company, that's basically how would this acquisition suits you. You will write this, right? How would this acquisition suits you? So that's the thing you need here, right? That's the thing you need here. So in suitability, you have to justify the reasons, right? You have to justify the reasons that it suits you, your objective to do this or to grow there or whatever, right? To do this or to grow there or whatever, it's totally on to you. Then we have feasibility, right? Then we have feasibility. In feasibility, you'll discuss the internal factors, or I'll say you'll discuss the internal capability. You'll discuss the internal capability that you have it or not, right? Or not, to make this project successful, right? If it's your first time of acquisition and you're going for foreign acquisition, right? If it's your first time, and if it's your first time of acquisition and you're directly going on the foreign sector, so that requires an expertise, right? I'll say the growth requires expertise. If you are not expert in acquisition, so you could discuss that here, right? You could give example of any bad experience, right, of acquisition. Like if any acquisition done in past, and then there come cultural differences, right? If I acquire any company and I'm from a different culture and the company employees are from different culture, there could be differences, right? Whether I have enough resource to give that company for which I'm going to acquire a strategic change so that they could be aligned with me, whether I have that or not, right? Financial resources, yeah. Do I have fund, right? Do I have retained earnings? Or I need to raise the debt or the gearing, or I need to raise the debt or the gearing. Do I have IT resources, or do I have a brand, or do I have a brand which would benefit this acquisition, right? Like if I can give you example which would benefit this acquisition, I could give you an example. To usually the companies, usually in mainly in the pharma sector, pharmaceutical sector, if a company is buying another company, they are not interested in the company's name. They are interested in the company's brand, right? They are interested in the company's brand that are offered. Usually in the pharma sector, the thing which is mattered is the brand, right? What other brands do the other company have, and will these brands will increase our portfolio or not? If I am going to offer the same brand, or I am offering the same brand, that means there wouldn't be a much growth if I acquire that company. But if that company is offering any particular molecule which I was not offering, or which is beyond my capability, so acquiring that company would allow me to grow in that molecule, right? So usually in the pharma sector, the thing which matters is whether they have enough uh, brands or not. So if acquiring for a brand, this would also benefit your acquisition. You could discuss that in feasibility. And then in acceptability, you do the financial analysis. And then in acceptability, you do the financial analysis. That's you'll calculate ratios if you want. You could calculate numbers, the number games, right? And you have to justify that whether shareholder will accept this or not, right? You could discuss on NPV, IRR here of that project, right? So you need to discuss that whether by justifying through these numbers, that whether your by justifying through these numbers, that whether your shareholder is going to whether your shareholder is going to allow you for this acquisition, whether they are going to accept this analysis, right? Whether they are going to accept this financial analysis or not, you need to justify them, right? You need to justify them here. So this is the SFA framework that you can use in any acquisition or any exponential or strategic growth, right? We have suitability, we have feasibility, we have acceptability, and each of them have been taught to you. In suitability, you have to justify that whether this suits you. In feasibility, you have to justify that whether you have resources to make this suit you. And in acceptability, do your shareholders are going to agree or not. Now see, the best part of my sessions are that you have just read the model, and now we are going to dive directly into the question, right? Read the question again. Now we are going to dive directly into the question. Now read the question again, that what was exactly the requirement. The requirement here is that prepare a report. So you need to take care of the format which assesses and appraises two options. You know the two options in strategic perspective. Through strategic perspective, you could just estimate that SFA framework required. The report should allow the board of Nehby to compare and contrast two options, 20 marks and 4 marks. So it's 24. So around 12 to 15 points, or might be 17, because this is an easy question, I would say, right? This is an easy question, I would say. So here we go on the format. We have report, right? Then 2, board of directors, from management consultant, date, today, assessment of two options from strategic perspective, right? Assessment of two options from strategic perspective. Now see, introduction. Like I would suggest you to at least, start and conclude like examiner. I would suggest you to read the examiner answers and try to start and end your answers like examiner does. Try to start and end your answers like examiner does, right? So introduction, this report assesses the two materially exclusive options. Now, what's materially exclusive? Now, what's materially, I would say mutually exclusive, right? Mutually exclusive. What are the mutually exclusive contracts? These are that if we went for the one option, we haven't any other option, right? If we went for the first option, we could not go for the second option. If we went for the second option, we could not go for the first option. So that's mutually exclusive. So in this scenario, the hotel and the restaurant seems to be mutually exclusive options, right? The hotel and the restaurant seems to be mutually exclusive, right? From strategic objectives using SFA framework, this report is based on available information and has been produced to enable the board to make well-informed decision for future. So see, I added here a professional touch. This is a professional touch, right? This is a professional touch, which you have to make sure that you are giving in your answers of whatever paper you are attempting. You have to give this sort of professional touch, that what this report is going to bring to you. What this report is going to bring to you. I have seen answers. In fact, initially, I've asked you to draft like here only, right? To draft like this only. But since now we are it's our 7th or 8th past paper, guys. So I need to give you some tough tasks, right? So here we added more lines. And in fact, I've seen these lines from the examiners. So therefore, I would suggest you to give these professional dilemmas regularly in the answer. I asked them to use the SFA framework. And here we are for the suitability. Now check out, right? Now check out here that in suitability, what I have written, that suitability is concerned that whether proposed strategy addresses the circumstances in which nearby company is operating, or in other words, it can be said that it does proposed strategy makes sense, right? Or suits nearby. Does the strategy suits nearby? Sir, what's this? It's basically the definition of suitability. It's basically the definition of suitability that I have made, that suitability is concerned that whether proposed strategy addresses the circumstances in which nearby is, or in other words, whether the strategy makes sense. So do quoting definitions give us the marks? See, in this professional paper, quoting the definitions doesn't give you marks, right? In this professional paper, quoting the definitions obviously doesn't give you marks, but yes, it will start your answer just like a professional person, right? You are defining the circumstances first, and then you are drafting your answer. So it would give you in professional marks. Yeah, it's gonna give you in professional marks. And why is that? It's because you have started like a professional person, right? You are not direct talking point to point. You have just settled the ground, and then you made your first point that the option to introduce restaurant is exploiting existing market, right? Which is basis for nearby success. Yeah, and make sure that you have marks in your mind. You have uh, skills in your mind, the evaluation skill, right? So the option to introduce restaurant is exploiting existing market, which is basis for nearby success. It will allow nearby to use its experience and strengths, providing a strategic fit with the mission of growth of nearby. So now, in this particular answer, what we did in this particular answer, we just gave we just gave a favorable comment regarding restaurant, that the option to introduce restaurant is exploiting existing market, which is our core capability and reason for success. It will also allow us nearby to use its experience and strengths, providing a strategic fit here, right? The option to run a hotel in a new market is diversification strategy. Here, by going for an hotel, you are using the diversification strategy. See, quoting strategies, quoting these type of words gives your answer a professional, right? They'll allow the examiner to give you professional marks because you sound like a professional person here. So the option to run a hotel in a new market is diversification strategy. It will allow nearby to take advantage of an opportunity in north. Yeah, you are going in north. Remember this, you are going in north. So far, you have been grown in south. By opening an hotel, this would allow you to go in north and grants to support hotel development in north of Sealand. So this will allow you to grow. This will allow you to get government grants, which was discussed. This will allow you to support hotel development in north of Sealand, right? In north of Sealand. Now, although diversification is still in same industry sector, diversification is still in same industry sector, you are diversifying, but the industry is same. That is hospitality. Now, see, this is an extra point. I've counted the points for you. This was the first point we made. This is the second. This is the third. That diversification is still in the same industry. Why? Because that was also, the restaurant is also hospitality sector, and the hotel is also hospitality sector. So it could potentially result in small reduction of business risk. There's also first mover advantage available. Yeah, remember this point? This was mentioned in the director comments, right? The first mover advantage. This was mentioned in the director comments, the first mover advantage. Usually, the first requirement of a question requires you to collect data from multiple exhibits. You will see this regularly, that the first requirement requires you to collect data from multiple exhibits, right? Now, both options can exploit economic growth, right, and fall in unemployment rates in Sealand. This both options gonna get you to hire some labor, and obviously the unemployment rate's gonna fall. The increased disposable income will increase expenditure done by public, leading to benefit for nearby, and therefore you are reducing the unemployment. That means the disposable income will increase, and therefore the people will go and eat and stay. So either the option you selected, this is gonna give you some benefit, right? This is gonna give you some benefit. Now, fifth, Opening a restaurant will require to stay in south, while hotel will require to diversify in north, right? Both options will need to recognize factors which can be impact the business. Both options seems to be suitable. So here I concluded, here I'll say, here I say that I concluded suitability, right? Here I'll say that I concluded suitability. Now think of it. How I have concluded suitability. It's simply that I've said that both options suits you because it will allow you to geographically diversify, right? And both options will need to recognize factors which can impact the business, right? So we made 5 points for suitability, in which we have tried to justify, in which we have just tried to justify that whether the acquisition just suits us or not, right? Whether the acquisition just suits us or not. Yeah. So now, if there are any questions, you guys can text me on WhatsApp, guys, right? Now, feasibility. What's feasibility here, right? Now, feasibility. See, feasibility focuses on whether Nehby has the resources to pursue the strategic choices, right? Whether you have resources, that's the feasibility. And resources could be the experience. I've taught you this. Resources could be experience, could be funds, could be IT, could be brands to support. So that could be your resources, right? Again, we started here. We just did not discuss the points here. We just feasibility focuses on whether Nehby has the resources to pursue the strategic choices. Feasibility highlights internal capabilities of the organization. I've told you that quoting the definition doesn't give you marks, right? But again, it gives you a professional start. The restaurant option, we have to discuss both options, right? So the restaurant option seems to be as a building on current strengths. The restaurant options seems to be building on a current strengths, right? As Nehby have more than 35 years of experience for running a restaurant, while in hotel, as it's the first time Nehby is going for hotel business, there is an inherent risk. Now see this term. There automatically and risk will arise of the first time. That's inherent, and this risk cannot be eliminated because everyone tries it for the first time, right? So Nehby, if going for a restaurant, won't be having inherent risk, but Nehby, if it's going for hotel business, it will have inherent risk, right? It will have inherent risk for the first time. However, it should be noted that hotel and restaurants lies in same industry, therefore Nehby are able to cover up the risk. Yeah, we could say that Nehby is able, we could say that Nehby is able, right, to cover up the risk. And why is that? And why is that? It's because they both operate, the hotel and the restaurant tends to be the hospitality sector, so they both have, I'll say, an option of a hospitality. Yeah. Also, the target is available in Sealand, and apparently Nehby staff is loyal. The talent, right? Although also the talent is available in Sealand. They've asked you that the talent is available in Sealand, and apparently Nehby staff is loyal to them, which will be an added advantage for any option selected, right? This will be an added advantage for any options you have selected. Buildings for restaurant in Caputo are held on reserves. If Nehby fails to serve a contract, there may be a delay in commencement as building in Caputo are limited. Yeah, if you are not fully committing them, if you are not allowing them to go, if you are not exploiting them, they might be use this building as an or give to any other tenant. And then now see, this is the discussion. If might be, so they could use this for any other tenant, and similarly, then what's gonna happen? And similarly, then what's gonna happen? This is gonna get you out of this particular project. So whereas if contract of hotel delays, there are suitable alternatives available, which would take less time to find a building. So for hotel, there have alternatives. There were alternatives. It was also in the direct procurements, right? That the exhibit mainly used here is direct procurements, right? But if we delayed a restaurant contract, then buildings in Caputo are limited. So we could not find restaurant building easily here. So we could not find our restaurant buildings easily here, right? Now, finance is the key resource of feasibility. Option 1 requires 5 million only. It's in the exhibit 3. Whereas option 2 requires significantly higher investment of 21 million. In both of the decisions, external funding is required as company have low cash levels. So whether you are going for restaurant, whether you are going for hotel, you need external funding. So it was 2 points here, then 8, 9, so approx 10 points we made for the 2 paragraphs, right? So approx 10 points we made for the 2 paragraphs, and we know now, although we have attempted this model in Zilber named question, right? The first question we attempted, but I would say that we just knew now that what to write and how to write. Now acceptability. You just have to prove. You just have to prove that whether the shareholders would accept this or not. You just have to prove here that whether shareholders are going to accept it or not. So see, the acceptability of the strategy is concerned with expected outcomes in terms of return, risk, and shareholders' reaction, right? So this determines the acceptability. So this determines the acceptability. So now, one point which should be noted that whichever option is chosen, one point which should be noted that whichever option is chosen, external financing would require, which will change company's capital structure depending on whether finance is raised through debt or equity. So our company's structure is going to be changed. We discussed here, right? Our company's structure is going to be changed. So we did this. Now, restaurant requires smaller capital outlay and will bring a positive NPV, right? Smaller capital outlay and will bring a positive NPV of 0.65 million. However, it should be noted that restaurant does not meet the criteria of 5 years of recovery, as its recovery period is 5.2. Now, so what I did here, I just went for the investment appraisal. I just went for the investment appraisal. So the restaurant here covers the investment complete here. How? See, it's nil, then 2.5, then 4.5, and then 6.5. So in restaurant, we're gonna get a full money refund in between 5 to 6 years, right? Between 5 to 6 years. So I made a point here. That in restaurants, smaller capital outlay, right, and will bring a positive NPV. It should be noted that restaurant does not meet the criteria, right? And obviously, if they have given you an NPV, it's the best suit for acceptability. If then given you NPV, it's the best suit for acceptability. So 5 years of recovery, as its current recovery period is 5.2 years. Now, hotel is considered as high risk option, as it is discounted. Its discount factor is 2% higher than restaurant. So hotel is a higher risk. How you know that? How you knew that? Just go here, check the discount factors. it's 8% and it's 10%. So the risk element of the hotel is more. Risk element of the hotel is more here, right? So hotel is considered as high risk option as the discount factor is 2%. Hotel have an NPV of 2.893 million and payback of 4.8 years. You could write that between 4 to 5 years. That means our target payback is met, right? That means our target payback is met. Now, other points, as I've told you, that between 15 to 16 points, that however, for hotels, significant external financing would require, which will lead to dilution of power. That's the most important point here. That you could give headings also, but since I've used suitability, feasibility, acceptability, I don't need it headings. But here, what exactly could be the problem? Here, the maximum problem that could be the major point was dilution of power, right? Dilution, because in hotel you're gonna earn, but your power is going to be diluted because you're gonna bring some venture capitalists. Because you're gonna bring some venture capitalists, right? So which will lead to dilution of power. There were some problems noticed while receiving the cash forecast. Grants have not been considered, right? Sensitivity analysis not performed. Venture capitalists used occupancy rates of 50%. There were some problems, right? I just mentioned the problems, in forecast. If I would have wanted, right? If I would have wanted, I could made extra points of that. But since I've covered already 14 points for 20 marks, that's enough. So I just mentioned these problems. I could make separate points for that. That the government would give grants, but the grants are not incorporated in investment appraisal, right? Government's gonna give grants, but grants are not going to be incorporated here, right? Then sensitivity analysis not performed. What sensitivity analysis? We should make two appraisals, the worst case and the best case, right? Worst case and the best case. On 3 occupancy levels, we could have performed the investment appraisal. Venture capitalists use rate of 50%, but we are using that 85% of the rooms gonna occupy, 85% of rooms gonna occupy, whereas venture capitalists gonna use rates of 50%, right? Nehby has made a 65%, sorry. So before final decision, above mentioned adjustment would result in effective decision. So if we are going to decide, we should make sure that we are adjusting the above adjustments, right? We should make sure that we are adjusting the above adjustments. And now the summarize, considering the risk and return and outcome of both option, total option is considered to be better investment, and the major limitation of the both option is that the comparison does not seem to be like with like, and the risk associated with hotel in north is much more difficult to compare with the risk associated with the south. So I criticized the comparison also. Now if you can check the evaluation here, that what a beautiful evaluation it has been, that I compared the both and then I criticized that comparison also. That major limitation is that both option is not seems to be like with like. I could not compare the risk of hotel with risk of restaurant. How could I compare? The hotel requires 21 million, whereas restaurant requires 5 million. One is in north, one is in south. One have many buildings, one have limited buildings. So the risk here is uncomparable. It will therefore up to the board to decide considering their risk appetite. So I leave my findings on the board. I've given my findings here. And I leave my findings on the board to decide. And I leave my findings onto the board to decide because it's their risk appetite. So we made some good points for hotel as well as for restaurant, and then we left it on the board, giving a valid reason, which is an evaluation. I gave a valid reason here. and that is that the risk of the both projects is different. Odal is much higher risk, so it's up to the board to decide what's its appetite, right? See, the requirement given to you would automatically draft you to the professional skills. Like if the professional skills wouldn't have been given, you would have evaluated both options. That is it not possible to not to evaluate the options, right? If I remove the evaluation skill, you also would have evaluated. So that means the requirements are interlinked with the skills. The requirements are interlinked with the skills. The requirement would lead you to draft following those skills, and you have just to consider these major words and make sure that you just remember what skill you have so that you could exactly draft in that pattern. That's the beauty of SBL, that the requirement suits the skill. And if you just read that skill, you would automatically draft in that skill, right? You would automatically draft in that skill. Right, guys? Let's just have a short break. It's namaz time here. So we're going to be continue at this at 9:30 probably. And till then, you could practice, you could pray, you could read, exam, and answer, whatever you guys wanted. And we'll have a discussion after this short break for the next requirements, right? Yeah, guys. So we completed the part one where we applied SFA model, right, before the break. So we know now what to write in suitability, what to write in feasibility, and what to write in acceptability. Now, we have some small requirements. So let's just do this. And some of them are probably general, just like an explanation of the appropriateness to Nehby company of diversifying risk by going into hotel business. So you need to justify that if we are going in hotel business, how the risk is diversified. Here you could write, this is geographical diversification, although we are in the same sector, but that's a product diversification. And restaurant, our product is something different. At here, our product is different, right? So you need to justify and skeptically glorify that how is hotel means diversifying risk. And here, the notes are briefing notes, right? Here, the notes are briefing notes. So it's around 8 marks. So you're gonna be giving some around 4 to 6 points, and that's surely gonna be enough, right? See, so requirement 2, it's briefing notes and FAO diversification strategy. See, now first again, giving a definition won't give you marks, but it will allow you to get some professional marks, right? So diversification is a strategy to even out bumps in the time profit profile of profits and cash flows, right? So that means diversification is evening out, right? Even out that the bumps if you can have, even out the issues if you can face in times of profits and cash flows. The ideal form of diversification is to engage in activities which acts in opposite ways. Yeah. See, I define diversification here, that what exactly diversification means. The exact meaning of diversification is that going out in opposite way, so that if the straight way doesn't went well, the opposite way is surely gonna be making out well. If the straight way doesn't went well, then the opposite way is surely gonna be making out well. So when profits are low in one area, it can be offset by high profits in opposite area. It can be offset by high profits in opposite area, right? Now see, both strategies, restaurant and hotel, operates in same sector, that is hospitality. They are both dependent on same variables and will move in the same direction with rate to change in economy. Now this is skepticism. Now this is skepticism that if anything bad happens to the economy, then hotel and restaurant will both move in the same direction. If the restaurants are declining, then the hotel will also be declining. If the restaurants are declining, then the hotel will also be declining, right? And why is that? It's because they both are pertaining to same sector. This is skepticism. However, risk might be partially reduced by expanding into different businesses. Although in order to completely offset the risk, Nehby needs to consider expansion beyond hospitality sector. Nehby needs to grow beyond hospitality sector, and here comes again skepticism. So see, automatically the answer requires the skepticism to be applied here. That if you want to diversify, that means you should be growing in a different sector, guys. You should be growing in a different sector. Nehby might get benefit of geographical diversification. Yeah, that's an value added feature, that you are not following the product diversification as you belong to the same sector, but you are diversifying geographically. As hotel is in north of Sealand, which is becoming increasingly competitive, opening a hotel in north will impact positively on revenues, and total risk can be reduced by geographical diversification. So here you showed support for diversification as they are diversifying not product wise, right? Support for diversification as they are not diversifying the product diversification, hence they are going for geographical diversification. They are not going for PD, they're going for GD. They're not going for PD, they're going for GD. So this is, I guess, enough for 8 marks. If you can think effectively, it's 6 marks for drafting and 2 marks for professional skills. That's skepticism, right? And 2 marks for professional skills. That's skepticism. Any questions, guys? Yeah. Any questions, guys? If there are any questions, you guys can text me on WhatsApp. You guys must have my number. Till now, we have seen so many classes, right? You guys must have my number till now. Diversification is an easy question, right? Diversification is an easy question here. Shall we move on to the next requirement? Yeah. Uh, let's just have uh, the B part here, which is again in smaller one, I guess, for 8 marks. So let's do that. Yeah. So consideration of key factors which will influence financing structure. That's again an easy. But do you guys know when I tested the specimen in my uh, physical batch, the students felt this requirement is a difficult one. You guys have to identify the key factors which will influence the financing structure. That what structure do we follow? That's really simple, guys. It's totally a commercial answer. It's totally requiring the commercial sense and the commercial answer. But what's that? It's simple that you guys must have. It's simple that you guys must have to look on the cash out, have to look on the gearing, have to look on the share capital, have to look on the debt, have to look on the terms of the debt, have to look on the covenant. So these are the factors which will determine your financing structure. Now that's totally an easy thing, right? That's totally an easy thing. See, firstly, now this answer require a commercial answer, right? Commercial answer. We need to consider how much cash can be utilized for investment, as current cash level is around 978,000. Partially gone of the cash can be used. Some of the cash can be used, however, some needed to be injected in the business so that working capital arrangement do not disturb. So here, this is now a commercial para. See how I told that I have this cash, but I won't be using max. I won't be using this much, right? I won't be using this max. And why is that? It's because I won't be using this much max. And why is that? It's because I need to check my working capital arrangements. I need to check my working capital arrangements. So that means 978,000 is required, but we could not use this because we have some working capital arrangement to be followed. Because we have some working capital arrangements to be followed, right? Now, the renovation of an old bank needs to be considered as it would also require a huge outflow. However, grants available, since there are grants, right? Since there are grants, so it's connection of the scenario. So it's connection of the scenario. Since there are grants, so grants available might cover substantial part of renovation. So grants available might cover substantial parts of renovation, right? Then again, which factors needs to be considered? Which factors needs to be considered uh, while financing structure is cost of borrowing, your interest rate? See, while that is usually cheaper than equity, it would create an extra obligation for company in terms of interest, right? So debt is cheaper, but it would create an extra cost for the company. That is cheaper, but it would create an extra cost for the company, right? So the current interest cover is 23 times, which is much higher and secured, which is much higher and secured. So we calculated the interest cover, and where from we calculated this, it's from financials, right? It's from financials. We calculated and we say that we are on safer side. If the hotel option chosen, Nehby need to borrow significant outflows, right? If the hotel option is chosen, Nehby need to borrow significant outflows, which will impact their interest cover, which could uh, fall below reasonable level and will create a significant default risk, right? So now the hotel option, now I need to borrow significant outflow, right? And if you're borrowing, now see the commercial aspects here, right? If I'm going for a borrowing, it's gonna impact my interest cover, which is currently 23 times. And since now I'm borrowing funds, you know the connection, my debt would increase the interest and my interest cover would fall below at the reasonable level. And my interest cover would fall below the reasonable level and will create a significant default risk right? Now, gearing also needs to be considered and is measured as debt upon debt plus equity. I mentioned the formula. It's not necessary to mention the gearing formula, right? Currently, Nehby's gearing is 46%, which is already higher to the acceptable level of bank. That's 45. So currently, we are breaking the covenants, right? Currently, we are breaking the covenants. We have a covenant attached, a limit attached for 45%, and our current gearing in our financials is around 46%, right? Is around 46%. So taking more loan does not seem to be a good option considering interest cover and gearing. So it's gonna argue. Now, the last factor for the financing structure. So now the last factor for the financing structure. Now you could see that how much easy this question was, right? And the student seems to be blank in it, like what to write. So as Nehby is a private limited company, there are less chances that Nehby shares might have been traded on general public. It's a general thing, right? Nehby is a private company, so no general public involvement. Nehby is a private company, so no general public involvement. A venture capitalist funding would be required, whose cost of equity would be linked to the profitability of the business, because he would require higher if the profits are higher, right? So he would require higher if the profits are higher. He would go for the higher returns, right? This will alter your voting control in the business, and every decision needs to be in reference with venture capitalists, right? And every decision needs to be in reference with venture capitalists. Venture capitalists would also require to get its investment back, typically from 3 to 7 years. So that means if a venture capitalist is investing, he would require his investments back, and that's for 3 to 7. We could easily make 2 paragraphs of one here and second here from here, but that's totally up to you. If you want 1 para, that's fine. Now, the last para for which I've made the pointers, the risk here, for which I've made the pointers, you could draft on your own that Nehby is not spreading risk, it's hospitality. Skills will be transferred, benefits, grants, events are going to be occur. You must be remembering that championship that's going to be occurring in the north. Loan, it will create a default risk, financial risk, equity, power dilution, risk appetite of the board. So this is the para of the risk, which will be my summarizing para. So this is the para of the risk, which will be my summarizing para. And why is that? It's because I'm not spreading my risk. I'm transferring the skills of restaurant to the hotel. I would benefit in the northern region for the championships that's going to be happening and the grant that the government is going to give me. I would need a loan. If I'm going through a debt, it will create default risk. It would shoots up my gearing. If I went for equity, it's going to dilute my power. So now totally the decision for the fundraising goes on to the appetite of the board. Now totally the decisions for fundraising goes to the appetite of the board, right? You guys got my point? So this was the question part, which seems to be difficult to the student, but what I believe it's most easiest, right? What I believe is that it's most easiest. Shall we move on to the next? So let's just do one more question and then leave the rest for the next class. So now the next question. And that seems to be of 38 marks. Yeah, see, it seems to be of 38 marks, guys. So let's just try to close this, else we could do the next question, the next parts in the later class. So recommendations with justifications of the measures which will be important for tracking all major project variables to ensure satisfactory progress to the project goals and successful opening and commercial acumen. Now see, if it's your project, what will be the measures, or what will be the measures that you're gonna be track on? If it's your project, just think of it, right? Now I'll say this is a general thing. Now just think of it. Like if it's your project, what will be the measures you'll be thinking on, or you'll be keeping an eye on? I guess you'll be keeping an eye on time, probably, right? You'll be focusing on time, that everything is on time. You'll be focusing on the resources, that make sure that every resource is available, right? You'll be taking on the resources to make sure that every resource is available there, right? That every resource is available there, right? So again, it's an easy thing if you think, right? You must be remembering in the previous past paper that was Railco, you must be remembering that in the previous past paper that was Railco, I taught you about the project initiation document. So each and everything is mentioned on PID. So while tracking a project, you'll be keeping an eye on the PID and on the project. While tracking on the project, you'll be keeping an eye on the PID and on the project that make sure that project is going fine and dine. So business case and project initiation document is going to be the factors or the measures that anyone is going to keep an eye on. They are going to be the measures that anyone is going to keep an eye on. So business case is a document which highlights merits and demerits of the project, and PID is the formal approval of the project, right, in form of all shareholders or stakeholders. So for successful opening of an hotel, business case and PID should be regularly reviewed. Business case and PID should be regularly reviewed, as the complete plan is in both documents. Having those documents would measure that project is going as per plan. So these two documents are the major documents on which I should be kept on. These two documents are the documents on which I should be kept on, and this would highlight any hindrance faced by project. This will highlight any hindrance faced by project, right? Now, think of the others, guys. Think of the others, and what's that? It's the expenditure. You must be keeping an eye on the expenses that are going to incur, and they are as per budget, right? What you have estimated cost, the actual cost should be around that. If the cost is running out, you must be alerted earlier. So in order for the project to be on track, you need to make sure that the cost is also on track. The budget of the cost is also on the track. So since expenditure of a project starts with establishment of budgets along with other activities. Now see, this is to justify the cost. That expenditure of the project starts with establishment of budgets along with other activities. Once the budgets are approved, we need to make sure that no cost at any certain stage should overrun budgets. Yeah, you need to make sure, while compromising cost, you could not achieve the best quality. You could not say that I went for the best quality while making the product or selling the product at the loss. You could not do that, right? At each stage, cost should be compared with allocated budget. At each stage, cost should be compared with allocated budget to ensure cost does not override budgets. And if there is an extra cost incurred, a valid reason should be available to justify cost overrun. A valid reason should be available to justify the cost overrun, right? And schedule and time performance. If you're focusing on cost, you should be focusing on time. And what's that? Schedule refers to timely completion of project deliverables. It will help management to calculate schedule variance if project is not up to the timely completion, right? And if it's not up to the timely completion, an alert would allow management, a good point raised by student, that alert would allow management to, I would say alert would allow management to deploy more resources, right? Deploy more resources. Alert would allow this. Further, since accurate forecast of opening is less likely to be made, through the schedule and delay, seized management will be able to calculate the effect on rows and margins. Yeah. So if delay would cause management to calculate, if management identified that there's going to be delay in the achievement of the project, so it would allow management, I would say it would allow management calculate the revised rows, revised margins for the project, right? Or could deploy extra resources. And similarly, if you are focusing on time, if you're focusing on cost, you could be focusing on quality. That's quality means that appropriate level of work is done under specific supervision and guidance. Yeah, appropriate level of work is done under specific supervision and guidance, and this design and development should be correctly settled in first phase, right? It will include material, labor, other costs, and design management will assess on regular intervals that work is up to specified requirement. The extra points which could be made here, is issue management. If any issue arises, regular meetings of project, yeah, by project stakeholders, regular meetings by project stakeholders, right? And progress report. And progress reports might be reviewing it weekly or daily to review day-to-day's progress, right? Or daily to review day-to-day's progress, right? So A part is done here. Now, what exactly you got to know this, that there are certain factors a person would keep an eye on, right? For tracking a project. That's cost for sure, that's time, that's quality, that's the project initiation document, that's budgets, that's issue management paper, all that. I'll say progress reports. So you need to keep an eye on many things, right? Although we had just 8 marks, so I defined the 4 things. And since I was short of time while attempting this paper, and you will be short of time too, so you need to be up to the mark. But you could also, if you want to draft extra, we have many other points, right? We have many other points. Any questions, guys? Now, the B part. An explanation of the implication both for board of Nehby for how business is managed and the governance changes should a venture capitalist would provide. That's particularly an easy one, right? That's totally an easy one. And here's the commercial acumen here. And here's the commercial acumen here. That what changes would a venture capitalist would require. It would stop your lavish cars, for suppose. He have mentioned that in its interview. He would appoint NED. He would require a formal processes and approvals, right? He would ask you to follow up formal process rather than uh, just like you do things now. Just go and ask and follow. Now the formal processes needs to be followed, right? So the entire leadership might get changed here. Now again, the tone of the answer would be commercial. See, this requirements require the commercial aspect, right? How? After introduction of venture capitalists, a board would be accountable to external shareholders, right? Board would be accountable to external shareholders, even if they hold minor shares, board will be responsible to them. And in board, there are family members, right? It will create scenarios such as board might have to defer some decisions unless venture capitalists have voiced their opinion. So your decision-making power will be hindered here. The first major change of venture capitalists. The first major change of venture capitalists that they are going to bring, is that they'll require their vote for the decisions. And if they are not voting, if the venture capitalist is not voting, the board have to defer some decisions. Currently, the decision are in hand of a board, but after venture capitalist, everyone would have equal rights to speak for project. Yeah. See, timely decisions, right? The venture capitalists would want timely decisions. They would want They wouldn't be waiting for a director who's traveling for leisure purpose to enjoy. He won't be waiting for that, right? So presently, the board can take a long-term view uh, for decisions on number of issues. Our venture capitalists would require quick resolution of issues, right? It would ask you to solve the issues quickly. Until and unless you guys are the owner, you could resolve the issues with your pace. But if someone external is here, he will ask you to solve it early. In Pakistan, whenever a government sector is privatized, what a private person do? He asked to solve the resolve. He asked to resolve the issues which was currently not solved by the government or the sectors, right? So the private person, in order to earn, would ask you to resolve the issues so that they could focus on the business. So currently, board might not take decisions in the best interest to them, but after investment from external parties, it will be board's fiduciary duty to act in the best interest. It will be board's fiduciary duty to act in the best interest. Now that's acumen here. That currently you might take those decisions which are impacting adversely to your business, like going for a Ferrari or the lavish cars that are costing your business. But if the external investment is there, you could not do these things because you have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest. So as control is in the hand of family, both can run the business in a way they want. They might be uh, satisfying their private objectives. As soon as external investment takes place, objectives will be limited to company and private objectives will be constant or finished, right? Private objectives would be constant and finished. Entity would be hired, guys. So primary duty of entity owes towards external shareholders. A single entity, preferably employee of venture capitalist, would be placed. Preferably, employee of venture capitalist would be placed at board, which will question and challenge the future strategies, right? So that means there will be a challenger at board who's gonna question the family man, right? Who's gonna question that sons that why are you doing that? Who's gonna question the sons that why are you doing that? Further, venture capitalists might require number of governance changes in the board structure. This might want specific board committees for transparency, such as nomination committee to highlight present in the current state. This will be a significant change in nearby governance structure. Yeah, it would require the venture capitalist might require governance changes also, right? He would require the governance changes. He would ask you to set up the committees for the directors, right? He would ask you to bring transparency at the board. So that means he's going to change the governance structure. This could in fact be a separate heading. This could in fact be a separate heading, right? Governance. He's going to change the governance. And remuneration. Currently, board has authority to reward themselves. Once venture capitalist is awarded, they could not reward themselves, right? There would be proper remuneration and competitive market related pay, right? They would get competitive market related pay and benefits, not the lavish cars. Risk management, venture control, venture capital would manage its risk. That governance recommends that the board should maintain sound risk management and internal controls. Presently, board might be able to take decisions which are above the risk appetite. Yeah, if there's a family in the board, they could do anything. But as soon as the venture capitalists arrived, VC would want that decisions should be aligned with entities' risk appetite, should be solely for profit maximization of shareholders, right? So if you want other points, relations with shareholders, venture capitalists would try to get strong relations with shareholders. He would ask you to have AGM and have different meetings, would ask you to manage your risk and all that. So these all are the changes that a person or an investor would require if he is investing in your entity, right? I guess discussed many points. The points could be shortened down here, right? The points could be shortened down here. So the governance changes when a venture capitalist would arrive. It would change your leadership. He would change your risk appetite. He would bring entities to question you. He would change the perks and the benefits offered. So he's gonna do many things. Now, sir, if my answer is based on different heads, like if you have mentioned entity, I'm making I'm not giving an heading of entity. I'm just drafting. Then extra director would be appointed by venture capitalist who's going to scrutinize the board's performance. So whether I would be getting the points or not, you surely gonna get the point, right? You surely gonna get the marks here. Your answer and mine answer could totally be different. You remember Railco? You could either select candidate A or candidate B, and if you have justified well, you'll get the marks. This is the beauty of SBL. So let's just end this class today, and we're going to be covering the next parts in the later sessions. We are left with 3 questions, I guess. Yeah. So we did SFA today. We attempted SFA's question. Then we went on to diversifying risk, right? Then the finance structure changes, then important for tracking. Now, you could just imagine the turnaround in the questions. First question was strategy. Other question is diversification. Other question seems to be then of financing structure. And the next one is project deliverables. So did you see that SBL is like a tree and it could have many branches and they could touch any, right? And then the governance changes we did. So in the next class, we're going to read a model cultural web, and then we're going to solve this question and have a discussion on it and close this topic, and then move on to the next question and theoretical aspects, right? It's all from my side. Hope you had a great session today. Take care. See you all. Hi, everyone. So hope you all are doing well. In last class, we attempted, I guess, 3 or 4 questions, right? We attempted 3 questions, yeah. And the last part was left. 3's last part, and then 4A, 4B to be concluded and winded up today, right? To be concluded and winded up today, right? So here we go for the C part. C. It requires an analysis of the current culture of Nehby and an assessment of how culture may need to change to align with strategic aims of venture capitalists and external shareholders. Now, for the 15 marks, they want you to analyze, right? They want you to analyze the current culture and what would be the culture once the external investors or venture capitalist has arrived, right? What will be the next structure? What will be the next structure once venture capitalists have arrived, right? So what to do here? See, you could simply analyze current culture, right? You could simply analyze current culture versus venture capitalist culture. The interview of venture capitalist would be of a great, I would say, would be of a great work here. But for the cultural type questions, right? For the cultural type questions, there is a model named cultural web. So why don't we have a look on that model? Why don't we have a look on that model and then discuss, right? Why don't we have a look at that model and then discuss what exactly, what's the current structure of culture, and what's the upcoming structure of culture, right? So it's on page number 9, cultural web, right? It's on page number 9, cultural web. See, cultural web gives you an idea of a culture of an organization, right? It gives you an idea of a culture of organization, right? Of a culture of organization. It gives you an idea of that, right? Now, how is that possible? How is that even possible? It's simple. It's simple, guys. See, power structure. Now, cultural web say that the culture depends on these 7 factors. Cultural web say the culture depends these 7 factors, right? The paradigm here is the culture, and it depends on these 6 factors. The 7th is culture itself, right? And what's that? The first is power structure. Culture depends on the power, like who has or who is the leader of the organization. Culture depends on power, like who has or who is the leader of the organization. What are his beliefs? What are his attitudes? What are his approaches? Is automatically the culture of an organization. So cultural web says that culture depends on 6 factors that lead to make the 7th, that is culture. And the first factor here is power structure. And the first factor here is power structure, right? If a leader is strict, the organization must be strict. If a leader is friendly, the organization must be friendly. Now, organizational structure. How is the organization? Whether it's tall or it's flat, you must know what a tall organization in which there is a long hierarchical chain, right? And what is flat organization in which number of reportees are more. We'll be covering these tall and flat and segregation of duties in the theoretical part of the chapters, right? So organizational structures is the study of the organizational structure, and it could be tall or flat. So the culture depends on power structures, that means on leader, and it's on organizational structure. Then also the culture depends on the control system. Then also the culture depends on the control system. That is organization is the cost focused or the quality focused. Whether organization is the cost focused or the quality focused. Is organization is cost focused or the quality focused? That would determine your culture. Then ritual and routines. What's the daily routine of the organization? What's the time to arrive here, right? And what's the time to leave here? What's the time to arrive here? And what's the time to leave here? Look for office timings, punctuality, strictness, late sittings, long lunch hours, leaves. These are the rituals. These are the routines. And this will determine how the culture is, whether the employees are punctual or not, whether the employees are strict or not, whether there's late sitting or not, long lunch hours, leaves. Then we have stories here, right? Then we have stories, previous history of organization, heroes and villains, right? Previous history of organization, heroes and villains. What are the best leaders in organization? What are the worst leaders in organization? They are going to be the stories, the story presenters here, right? And the symbols. That's how the physical appearances of the organization are. What are the perks they're offering? Are there any expensive cars or the lavish offices or the club memberships or the titles or the vacation plannings? Are these there or not? If there are, then there's a healthy culture, right? So that means the cultural web, it's basically a phenomena that determines that how the culture is set. The culture is set by the power structure. The culture is set by organization structure. The culture is set by the control systems, the rituals and routines, the stories and the symbols. And then all these 6 factors consolidatedly create the paradigm. All these 6 factors consolidatedly creates the paradigm. This is what the cultural web is. Now, if you want to follow this model, that's up to your discretion. But it's easy to apply the Nehby situation in this model. How? You would be assessing Nehby's 6 factors before the venture capitalist. Who is the power structure? How's the organization structure? How the control systems are? How the routines are? How the stories? How the symbols? And then you'll be assessing that venture capitalists have arrived. Then what are the changes? You'll be assessing that venture capitalists have arrived. Then what are the changes? Then what are the changes? Right? So let's just read the question and then its determined answer. So here's the requirement that analysis of current culture and assessment of culture may need to change and align with strategic aim. And what were the aims? They were discussed in the last exhibit, the aims of the culture. Venture capitalist. Yeah. So see, again, start like a professional person, guys. Again, start like a pro here. How's that? It's the culture of an organization is intangible and difficult, right? It's the culture of an organization is intangible and difficult to describe, right? However, it could be explored by using different models. It could be explored by using different models, and the culture of Nehby is explored using cultural web. And the culture of Nehby is explored using cultural web. And I've taught you the cultural web. So again, we have just learned the cultural web, and now we have just learned the cultural web, and now we are going to apply that. And now we are going to apply that. Yeah. So stories and myths. So stories and myths, right? Story relates to event which people tell about the organization. Now see how I have categorized here that current and the future of the culture. The current stories, the winning of many awards could be their story, and the acknowledgement from the industry are stories to be told. They are the stories that the Nehby would tell. Being the Caputo's most loved restaurants are going to set good examples of memorable events, customer loyalty, and staff motivation. So these are the current stories and myths here. So these are the current stories and myths here, right? Now the future. Now this needs to be extended. Now this needs to be extended with continued focus on customer service. Now similar, that previous culture needs to be extended after the venture capitalist or in the future. That means there should be no change in the stories and myths, that the progress there should be carried forwarded. This needs to be extended with continued focus on customer service and staff motivation. Gaining membership of Worldwide Hotels Elite Group would be an important story. Yeah, that referral of the director comments, right? One of the director commented that if we entered in the hotel, we could go for this recognition, and this recognition would be the best story to be told, and this recognition would be the best story to be told, right? Now, the symbol. What's the symbol here? That symbols are often considered as visual representation of the company, defined than the current versus future. The buildings chosen for restaurants and the atmosphere created in there highlights the symbols of Nehby Group, right? It highlights the symbols of Nehby Group. These symbols have contributed an increased loyalty of customers and has led carrying low staff turnover. So that means the buildings chosen are our symbols. The atmosphere we create are our symbols. These are the nearby group symbols. Like we consider for the old buildings and renovate them, right? We consider the old buildings and renovate them, right? Now, future. The expensive company cars are status for the executives. Expensive company cars are status for the executives, right? It is likely that venture capitalists will propose a removal of status symbols. Profit margins would be important and unnecessary expenses would not be allowed. Yeah, so they wouldn't be asking you to renovate to look like familiar hotels. They will be focusing here on profit margins. So that means that symbols might be compromised. So that means that symbols might be compromised when VC is arrived. When VC is arrived, that means symbols gonna be compromised, right? Power structure relates to which person or group holds power. Currently, the director, the father, right? At present, power is in the hands of family, reflected by dominance of the board of directors. Graham appears to have dominated the decisions making till now. Yeah, Graham Nehby. Future, the company will now have external shareholders and their representatives. External shareholders will be there and their representatives, right? Will hold you accountable for every decision. So now Graham is not that much powerful as he is accountable. So now Graham has not been accountable as he is powerful here. So venture capitalist might uh, might allow new blood in the board, which will affect the power, right? Balance of power here, right? So venture capitalist might wanted or might allowed new blood in the board. Currently, Graham leads the board, but once the venture capitalist is here, he might want new blood, new think, right? Organization structure. It defines the forms and categories of organization. So current Nehby is structured on functional basis, right? The power being held by each board member as functional directors. Each of the board members, the functional directors. It's not the divisionalized structure, right? It's not the, I won't say that it is a divisionalized structure. I'll say that it's functional structure, right? So each of the function have a different director. Future, they might go for divisional structures, right? It's totally up to the discretion on the investors. They might go for divisional structures, right? It will be helpful to appraise performance for each of the products separately, right? For each of the products separately. Then a control system. The control system reflects organizations, measurements, and reward systems, right? The control system reflects organizations, measurements, and control system. So currently, monthly management accounts are made and reported to the board. Are they enough? You could ask yourself, which highlights important areas of control. So remunerations are set by board. The remunerations are set by board, right? This does not seem any formal system here, right? So future would cease excessive salaries because the directors will be facing the controls implemented here. So the directors will be facing some questioning regarding this, right? The directors would be facing the questioning here, and I would be kept on important measures and target would be set, right? Target would be set. Then rituals and routines are here. Routines are daily behaviors, right? Now, if think of the case and apply the model, that what are the routines and rituals of Nehby? That staff loyalty, right? Strong teams, motivated workforce, important part of their culture, right? Investment in talent and training, routine, which have led extra motivation of staff. This has led extra motivation of staff, right? So future Nehby needs to extend. Nehby needs to extend loyalty of staff, right? Nehby needs to extend loyalty of staff to an extraordinary levels, right? To an extraordinary levels. They would need to consider their hotel portfolio and will try to increase its carry to routine of success. So where there's gonna be no change, just like stories, just like rituals, I've said that it should be increased to the maximum extent, right? I have said that it should be increased to the maximum extent. But where it requires a change or the venture capitalist would change, I've said that this would be changed, this would be questioned, this would be deteriorated. So above mentioned project controls, governance, changes needs to be monitored, and now all three requirements concluded in a single para. Nehby should create and communicate plans so that smooth transition of change can be and negative impacts can be avoided. Yeah, if you're communicating the plans, you could communicate it earlier so that the smooth transition of cultures can be done, right? So that the smooth transition of cultures can be done here, right? So now the culture thing is done. See, that is why I allowed you to solve the past paper so that we just spread the cultural web and then apply it here. Apply it here. So now you know what we have to write in rituals, what we have to write in stories, what we have to write in symbols, what organizational structure means, and this is gonna give you an added advantage to draft on models, right? To draft on models. Any questions, guys? Yeah. Shall we uh, go to the last requirements, right? So let's just state this. The last seems an easy one. See, uh, appropriate number of slides, identification weaknesses in front management accounting information, right? Recommend improvements of management accounting data and KPIs which should be included. So it's totally pertaining to the accounting information that's here. And what are the weaknesses here, right? What are the weaknesses here? And that's to be in slide. So in slide, if it is, so you need to write less in the work notes, right? You need to write very less here. So what are exactly the weaknesses we can say? See, there are no major breakup of expenses, like breakup of admin expenses. They have said that the admin expenses are that much, or it constitutes that, but there should be a breakup of it, right? There should be a breakup of it here. Why? That how you would determine that how to cut costs. If you are not determining then how the breakup, then how the cost would be cut it down, right? Similarly, uh, breakup of food cost, breakup of operating profit, percentage, and reasons for variances, right? Now this is a corporate answer, right? If someone has worked, they could have easily identified the mistakes here. Whenever I sent my manager, since I have worked in reporting department, at that time when I send reports to my manager, I make sure that there are percentages. I've done the formatting, conditional formatting, green and red, the higher variances mentioned in the red, and then the reasons of the variances, right? I make sure that I've given admin expenses for every presentation, breakup of that, and making sure that every cost have a good breakup and good breakup and good cost, right? Reason. So these all are missing here, right? These all are missing here. If you could see in this requirement, there are no reasons at all. There are no reasons at all. They have mentioned that admin expenses are that, but I would require an amount wise so that I could compare it with the budget. One of the students said that comparison of budget is given, but head wise budget would have been great, right? But have head wise budget, breakup wise budget comparison should be done, right? Breakup wise. Now you could read this, that management account represents overall business performance. So it requires many things to be given, like breakup of admin expenses and food cost, percentage and variances should have been given, right? And recommendation of improvements, it's simply you could make a variance reporting frequently, yeah, might be monthly, since in our organization we report variances monthly, right? uh, we give profit center details, like product wise detail, or I could say restaurant wise detail you could have include here, right? Restaurant wise detail you could include here. Flexed budgets, yeah, for sure. Flexed budgets. Then KPIs you can make is the carbon emission is a major factor. So your KPI might be carbon footprint. Your KPI might be customer satisfaction. Your KPI might be occupancy rates. Your KPI might be revenue per room and ADR. These factors that were mentioned here, right? And these factors that were mentioned here. You haven't mentioned uh, any particular information here which should have included, right? Like you can give occupancy rates here, right? You could give revenue PAR that was mentioned in the interview. If you remember that here they gave an example, uh, and that was mentioned here that we look for the revenue, we look for the ADR, right? We look for the ADR and the revenue. Similarly, see, sustainability was mentioned here. So I added a carbon footprint. I added carbon footprint would be good KPI for that, right? Carbon footprint would be good. Since I work in an hospitality sector, so customer satisfaction. So these all are the factors which should be reported monthly rather than just numbers, right? Rather than just numbers, we need to report these factors monthly also, right? These factors monthly also. So I've included that here. So I defined each and everything, that the original budget should be flexed, right? KPIs, occupancy rates should be included and should be regularly monitored. Similarly, customer satisfaction, they post postings on social media and all that, right? This would allow you to get and access more customers, right? Carbon footprint should be reduced, right? So revenue per, the formula here, the total room revenue divided by total average rooms, right? So This is what you need. Why I'm not discussing the slides? Because in slides, you usually write what you have made the pointers. So we write less here, right? And now this question comes to an end. And if I could rate the requirements or the specimens that we have attempted, the easiest one was this, the average one was Railco, and the difficultiest one was DCS. You could share your views in it, right? You could share your views in it. But now, what exactly is the assignment? The assignment till the next class is that here in the shared PDF or the attached PDF of the class, I have attached the examiner answer. I would request you to read the examiner answers and think of the points which I haven't made yet, right? Think of the extra points. Since what my meaning is that when I give you a question for a homework or cover, or once we have solved the question, that's all from my end. What I want from your end is to read the examiner answer and try to make points on a rough planner. Go on the Word file and make yourself planner, examiner answer planner. That examiner mentioned that points, whereas sir told only 4 points. So that means I could write 3 extra points if that certain requirement comes to me. See, the industry could be different. The question could be different, but the requirements would be of same nature. Requirement cannot be different, right? Requirement cannot be different from the earlier questions. So the moral here is that we have covered 3 specimens, we have covered 4 mini mocks, we have covered multiple areas of theories. So now it's time to write, guys. It's time to read the examiner answers. It's time to write so that we could move on to the practice. Now, last question that we are left with is machine shop. And once we have done that, we'll move to the theory areas. And once theory areas are done, we'll move on to the advanced information and then the further practice. But till now, till here, you guys are officially certified to draft. You can draft the questions which we have attempted. You can draft any further assignments you would have wanted and shared it with me, and my team and I will be checking and giving you marks. So see you all in the next class. Any queries, my number's with you. You can just text me and we can have a discussion on that, right? Thank you.